She shouted. "You'll regret walking away from me. I always get what I want." I said, "Not this time." When she showed up to take back what she claimed was hers, the court order taped to the door proved otherwise. I, 29 male, just had to call the cops on my ex-girlfriend Bianca, 31, for trying to break into my photography studio. The same studio she swore she'd take from me when we broke up 3 months ago. Let me back up. Bianca and I dated for 2 years. She worked in PR, I'm a photographer. When we met, I was doing mostly freelance gigs, weddings, portraits, struggling to make rent. She had connections in the fashion industry through her job. About a year into dating, she started booking me fashion shoots through her contacts. Good money, great exposure. I was grateful. Maybe too grateful. I didn't notice the strings being attached until they were wrapped around my neck. 6 months ago, I'd saved enough to lease a small studio space. Nothing fancy, 800 square feet in an old building, but it had great natural light and was mine. Bianca helped by introducing me to more clients, even suggested we market it as our creative space to her connections. Red flag, I know. But I was riding high on finally having my own place. She started treating the studio like her personal office, held PR meetings there, stored client gifts, even had packages delivered. When I gently suggested she ask before scheduling meetings during my shoots, she laughed. "Babe, without me, you'd still be shooting birthday parties in parks. This studio exists because of my connections. I pay the lease, Bianca. My name's on everything. Money isn't everything. I made this happen." The entitlement grew. She'd cancel my bookings to use the space. Told clients I was busy when she needed the studio for her own purposes. Started referring to it as our studio, then just my studio when talking to her friends. 3 months ago, I hit my limit. She'd canceled a $3,000 product shoot, told the client I was sick because she wanted to host a PR party. When I confronted her, she said, "It's one shoot. I'll get you 10 more. Stop being ungrateful." "I'm not your employee, Bianca. This is my business." "Your business? You mean the business I built? The studio I filled with clients? The studio I lease, the business I run. You helped, yes, but..." "Helped?" She was screaming now. "I created you. You're nothing without me." I ended it that night. Told her we were done, professionally and personally. Asked for my apartment key back. Yeah, we weren't living together, but she had a key. Her response still echoes in my head. "You'll regret walking away from me. I always get what I want." "Not this time," I said. She threw my key at me and stormed out, but not before promising she'd take everything you think is yours. I thought it was just angry ex-talk. I was wrong. Update 1. The first 2 weeks after the breakup were quiet. Too quiet. I changed my apartment locks just in case, but kept the studio the same. It's a commercial space with good security, and changing those locks would have been expensive. Then the games started. First, she called all the clients she'd introduced me to, telling them I was unstable and had stolen her creative concepts. Lost 3 bookings immediately. Whatever. I'd built my own client base too. Next, packages started arriving at the studio. Not for me, for Bianca Torres Creative Consulting. When I returned them to sender, she texted, "Those are important client materials. You have no right." "You don't work here, Bianca. Use your own address." "That is my address. I established that studio as my creative base." "No, you hung out in my studio sometimes. Big difference." She started showing up during my shoots, just walking in, acting like she belonged there. The security code hadn't been changed, my mistake, and she'd memorized it. After the 3rd interruption, I changed the code and explicitly told her she was not welcome without invitation. Her response was to send a formal letter from some budget lawyer claiming she had established tenancy in the studio through regular use and property storage. I laughed. Tenancy? In a commercial photography studio where she never paid a dime? Good luck with that. But then I found out she'd been telling people she was a co-founder of my studio, had business cards printed, listed my studio address on her LinkedIn, was actively booking her own PR meetings there, telling clients I was the one subletting from her. Time to get serious. I hired a lawyer, Diane, who specialized in small business disputes. She reviewed everything: lease, bank records, emails, texts. She has absolutely no claim, Diane said, but she's creating a paper trail that could complicate things. We need to shut this down now. We sent a cease and desist. Clear language. Stop claiming ownership. Stop using the address. Stop interfering with the business. Bianca's response was to post on Instagram. When you build something beautiful with someone and they try to erase your contributions, standing up for what's mine. Entrepreneur struggles, women in business. The comments were all supportive. Poor Bianca, pushed out by her ungrateful ex. I didn't engage. Just screenshotted everything. 2 days later, she showed up with a moving truck. Update 2, I was editing photos when I heard the commotion outside. Looked out the window. Moving truck, 2 guys with dollies, and Bianca directing them like a general. I met them at the door. What's happening here? Bianca smiled sweetly. Moving my things out. Since you're being petty about the space, I'm taking what's mine. You don't have things here. Oh, really? She pushed past me, the movers following. Started pointing at equipment. That lighting kit, bought with money from clients I brought. Those backdrops, purchased during our relationship. That desk, I picked it out. I have receipts for all of this. My receipts. Receipts don't tell the whole story. She turned to the movers. Start with the desk. I stepped between them and the desk. Nobody's taking anything. Bianca, you need to leave. Or what? You'll call the cops on your girlfriend? Ex-girlfriend. And yes, she laughed. I know my rights. I have belongings here. You can't deny me access to my property. What property? Name one thing in here that's yours. She walked to a corner shelf, pulled down a small potted plant, one she'd brought months ago and forgotten about. This, see? My property. That gives me the right to be here. The movers looked uncomfortable. One asked, Ladies, should we wait outside? No, I'm paying you to move my things. I called the police, told them someone was trying to remove equipment from my studio. Bianca told the movers to hurry. They refused. They didn't want trouble. When the cops arrived, Bianca turned on the tears, said she was just trying to collect her belongings from a shared workspace. Even showed them the business cards with my studio address. The officers looked at my lease, my ID, then asked Bianca for any proof of ownership or residency. She had her business cards and that's it. Ma'am, this appears to be his commercial space. Unless you have documentation showing ownership or a legal right to remove property, you need to leave. But we built this together. I have clients here. Then you'll need to sort it out in court. For now, you need to go. She left, but not before hissing, This isn't over. I always get what I want. The potted plant sat on my desk, wilting. Update 3. After the moving truck incident, I thought maybe reality had set in. Nope. Bianca just got more creative. She filed a small claims suit, not for the studio, even she wasn't that delusional, but for lost income from dissolved business partnership and unreimbursed business expenses. She claimed we were 50-50 partners, and I owed her half the studio's value plus compensation for the clients she brought. The number she came up with? $45,000. Diane laughed when she saw it. She's fishing. This won't hold up, but you'll need to respond. We filed our response with a counterclaim for harassment and interference with business. I had documentation of every canceled booking, every interrupted shoot, every false claim she'd made to clients. Then things escalated. Again, I arrived at the studio one morning to find the locks glued shut, super glue in every keyhole. Had to call a locksmith, missed a morning shoot, cost me $400 to fix, and a $500 cancellation fee from the client. Security footage showed Bianca at 3 a.m., hoodie up, but clearly her. 2 days later, every photography studio in the area received an email from concerned client, warning them about me. Claimed I was unstable, stole equipment, and had unethical business practices. Most ignored it, but 2 studios I sometimes collaborated with called to ask what was going on. Then she made her biggest mistake. She filed a complaint with the building management, claiming to be a tenant being illegally evicted. Forged a sublease agreement between us, even created fake payment records. Building management called me, confused. She says she's been paying you $800 a month to share the space? That's completely false. I have all my bank records here. She's never paid me anything. They were skeptical until I showed them our text exchanges where she explicitly stated she'd never paid for the studio. They were not amused by the forged documents. Diane's eyes lit up when I told her. Forgery. Fraud. This changes things. We're going from defense to offense. We filed a restraining order request with all the evidence. The harassment, The property damage, the forged documents, the security footage. Judge granted a temporary order immediately, pending a full hearing. Bianca was served at her office. Her coworkers saw the whole thing. She called me from a blocked number that night, screaming about humiliation and how I'd ruined her reputation. "You did that yourself," I said, and hung up. The restraining order required her to stay 100 feet from me and 500 feet from the studio. No contact except through lawyers. She'd have her day in court to contest it, but until then, she was legally barred from my life. You'd think that would stop her. You'd be wrong. Update 4. The restraining order hearing was set for 2 weeks out. Bianca hired a new lawyer. Apparently the first one dropped her after the forgery came to light. In those 2 weeks, she got desperate. Couldn't contact me directly, couldn't come near the studio, but she wasn't done. She created a website, The Truth About My Business Name. Full of lies about stolen equipment, breached contracts, and a pattern of exploiting women entrepreneurs. SEO optimized so it showed up when anyone Googled my business. But she made a crucial error. She registered the domain in her own name. Easy to trace. More evidence for our file. Then came the reviews. 1-star ratings on every platform from obviously fake accounts, all posted within hours. Racist photographer. Stole my deposit. Inappropriate behavior during shoot. Fortunately, most platforms have ways to dispute fake reviews, especially with a restraining order as evidence. The hearing arrived. I wore my only suit. Bianca showed up in full corporate power dress, looking every inch the wronged businesswoman. Her new lawyer argued that the restraining order was an attempt to silence a business dispute between former partners. Claimed Bianca had sweat equity in the studio and was being punished for asserting her rights. Diane systematically destroyed every claim. Bank records showing I alone paid for everything. The lease in only my name. Text messages where Bianca acknowledged it was my studio. Security footage of her damaging property. The forged sublease documents. The fake website registration. Screenshots of false reviews. The judge asked Bianca directly, "Did you create these sublease documents?" They were draft agreements we discussed. "That's not what I asked. Did you create these documents and submit them as authentic?" Long pause. "I was documenting our verbal agreement." So you forged them?" Her lawyer tried to object. The judge wasn't having it. The ruling was swift. Restraining order extended for 1 year. Bianca was ordered to take down the website, cease all defamatory statements, and pay my legal fees, about $8,000. As we left court, she couldn't help herself. Waited until we were in the parking lot, technically 100 feet away, and shouted, "This isn't over. I'll get what's mine. I always win." Diane just smiled and made sure our court reporter heard every word. Update 5. The restraining order should have been the end. But Bianca had one more card to play. 2 weeks after the hearing, I got a call from my landlord, not the building management, the actual property owner. "Mr. My Name, I'm calling about the sublease situation." "What sublease situation?" "Your subtenant, Ms. Torres, contacted me directly. Says you've been illegally subletting and she wants to take over the lease properly." My blood ran cold. She's not my subtenant, she's my ex with a restraining order against her. "She sent me a sublease agreement with your signature." The forged documents. She was using them again, just targeting someone new. I explained everything, sent him the court documents, the restraining order, the ruling about the forgery. He was not pleased. She seemed very professional on the phone, even offered to pay 6 months up front. That detail stuck with me. 6 months up front? Where did Bianca get that kind of money? I found out soon enough. She'd been telling her wealthy clients that she was expanding her creative agency and needed investors for an established studio space. Raised almost $30,000 from 3 people who thought they were investing in her business. When those investors Googled the studio address and found my website, they called me. "We're looking to schedule a meeting about the investment opportunity." What investment opportunity? The truth came out quick. Bianca had shown them photos of my studio, my work, claiming it was all part of her expansion. Promised them equity in a business that didn't exist. 3 very angry investors. And now we weren't talking about small claims court anymore. This was fraud. Actual criminal fraud. Diane connected them with a criminal attorney. I gave statements to the police. Showed them everything. The forged documents, the false claims, the restraining order violations. Contacting my landlord definitely counted. Bianca was arrested at her office, again in front of her coworkers. This time for fraud and violating a restraining order. She made bail, but the damage was done. Her PR firm fired her. The investors were pressing charges. The criminal case was moving forward. And me? I finally had peace. Changed all my locks again, upgraded security, and slowly rebuilt the client relationships she'd tried to destroy. But I should have known she'd try one more thing. Final update. It's been 3 months since the breakup. Bianca's criminal trial is pending. She's out on bail with strict conditions. No contact with me, the investors, or anyone connected to the case. Yesterday morning, I arrived at my studio to find her standing outside. Not within 500 feet, she'd clearly measured. Just standing on the public sidewalk, holding a sign. This business was built on lies and theft. Legal? Technically. Technically she was far enough away. Technically it was free speech. Technically not contact. I called Diane. She sighed. Document it, but unless she approaches or directly contacts you, it's a gray area. I went inside, tried to work, but clients arriving for shoots saw her. Awkward questions, concerned looks. She stood there for 3 hours. Lunchtime, I'd had enough. Went to the building's front door, still maintaining distance, and taped something to the glass door. Large enough for her to read from where she stood. The final restraining order. The fraud charges. The arrest record. And a QR code linking to a simple website I'd created documenting everything. Court documents, security footage, her own text admissions. All public record. All fact. The sign read, "The truth about Bianca Torres, scan for court documents." She stared at it. I watched from inside as people walking by started scanning the code, reading, looking at her with her sad protest sign, shaking their heads. One person I recognized, a client of hers from the fashion world. She scanned, read, looked at Bianca with disgust, and walked away while pulling out her phone. Bianca's face went from smug to panicked. She grabbed her sign and practically ran to her car. Haven't seen her since. Last night, I got a text from an unknown number. Just one line. "You win." Blocked it, but I saved the screenshot, just in case. Because here's what Bianca never understood. This was never about winning. It was about protecting what I'd built. She thought intimidation and lies would get her what she wanted because they always had before. Not this time. The studio is thriving. I'm booked solid for the next 2 months. The clients she drove away, most came back when they learned the truth. The new security system includes cameras that would make a casino jealous. And that wilted plant she left, I nursed it back to health. It sits in my office window, a reminder that even things that seem dead can come back stronger. Bianca's trial starts next month. I'll have to testify. But I'm not worried. I have receipts, literally and figuratively. Every text, every email, every forged document, every lie she told. She thought she'd take my studio because she always gets what she wants. But wants and gets are 2 different things, and sometimes what you get is exactly what you deserve. The court order taped to my door isn't just paper. It's proof that truth wins. Eventually, even when the lies are loud and the liar is relentless. She wanted my studio. What she got was a criminal record and a career in ruins. I wanted peace. What I got was a business that's truly mine, and the knowledge that I can stand up to anyone who tries to take it. Not a bad trade, honestly.